one more thing I wanted to cover, some quick hotkeys before we go further, is um, it's a quick way to advance your timeline one frame at a time and one frame back while you're working. Just a keyboard shortcut that I use. Um, and I want to just show you that really quick. So let's go under Hotkey Editor, go over here under Playback Controls, and next frame, oops, and previous frame. I have them set to control for next frame. I have it the right control key, and it's the period. And you go to the previous frame is the right control and comma. Those are the two keys right next to the M on the keyboard. It's just they're close together. It makes me able to quickly change frames while I have one hand on the keyboard. I don't have to look at the keyboard. It's just something that helps improve the workflow and speed up workflow a little bit. I just thought about that and wanted to share that with you guys. So that would be that. And so now we're going to go through, we're going to open a scene. It's going to be this walk that I'm working on. And it's not done, but I want to go ahead and show you what it is. I kind of felt this guy reminded me a bit of a penguin, just with his body's large torso, kind of small legs. Felt like he should waddle. So that's kind of what I've got working on him. Felt kind of right. Have his arms almost kind of in this gnarly, his hands kind of this gnarly pose. Just kind of what I was feeling for this guy. So when we're talking about spacing and you're a situation where you're refining your animation, one of the things that you want to do is use a tool like the Arc tool. Let's just dock that. As you're going through and polishing your animation, and as you continue to refine it, from a blocking stage, and we'll go into workflow more in depth later. Let's turn on the skies. Go to the channel box. Turn on the rig controls. Okay, so I want to select the master node. He's translating on Z as he's walking. What I want to do is I want to mute that channel. So basically when he walks, he's walking in place, and I can fine-tune the curves a little bit. And I'm going to drag the time slider, since the cycle is 25 frames long. It's actually 24. This starts at 1, not 0. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the Arc tracker. We're going to dock it. We're going to undock it, and then we're going to dock it, because that seems a little buggy. And now if I were to go and just select the controller, add, create trail, you're going to see now if I scrub it, if you watch the controller and its relationship to the foot, because of the controls I'm using in the foot to get it to do that bend, it's not really giving me an accurate read of what the mesh is doing. So you really have to be careful what you're selecting to track, and make sure it's true to how your mesh is translating through space. So let's go through here, and we're going to remove that trail. We're going to go back to the layer editor. We're going to turn on the rig skeleton. I'm going to go ahead and select this joint. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically turn everything off except for curve mask and joint mask, so I can select that. Now if I select that, you'll see even in this case it was a different part of the skeleton, part of the rig. So we need to go back and select this guy here If I zoom in, it'll help. There we go. And now if I scrub, I see that's really going to give me the true representation of what the mesh is doing. So now we'll go back to our arc tracker. We'll add that object, and then we'll create the trail. Now we can see here what's going on. I wish there was a way to scale these guys. I don't think there is in here. Path tracks. Oh, maybe that's the scale right there. Let's take that down to... Oh, yeah, it is. Oh, cool. All right. Look, I just learned something. This way you can see a little bit more of the curve and they're not overlapping so much. And it just makes it a little bit clearer to see what's going on. So as you can see, the spacing in here is it's a little messy, right? You know, the spacing here is even. Well, let's just start from the first frame here. You know, as we go, the spacing throughout here is relatively even. You see it's pretty tight, and then it doesn't really gradually open up. I'd like to see this be more over there, and then maybe even this one there. One thing you have to keep in mind, though, is you want to make sure that the feet are locking to the ground during the step. So that may give you a little weirdness in the spacing to make sure he's rooted on the ground. So those are things we can work on after we go do this pass. So let's recreate the trail to get it back to what the default was. Now moving these does not have any effect on the position of, these are strictly just a visualization tool to show you where that object is in space at that particular time. So moving those isn't going to affect your curves at all. If you do move them, recreate it to get them back to where you want them to be. And I can't really mess too much with those because I already went through and made sure this thing was pretty much locked to the ground during the step. What I can do here, let's see, as you can see that the curve here is looking a little bit linear as it comes up, and I might want to try to smooth that out a little bit. So maybe here, now we're going to go back, jump over to the channel editor. I'm going to take that heel roll, bring it down just a bit so it has a little smoother transition as it starts to come up. And then we can go back to our arc tracker, recreate the trail. And then you see it's a little more of a gradual raise up. I may want to be careful here of the knee popping. That's one of the tricky things too about doing this stuff is, especially walk cycles, watch out for popping knees. See how that knee, the position of the knee here, I'm just going to go ahead and select it. You can see it pop down. Oh, I selected the wrong one. Let me see if I can hide that particular part of the rig. No, I can't. Oh, darn it. But anyway, you can see how the knee pops. You can see the difference right here between these two. So that's something you really got to watch out for. So what I'm going to do to fix that as well is I'm going to have the foot start to come up. Watch the knee here. I'm going to take this back here. Where's the heel roll? Add a little bit back there. And then I am going to jump over here, add a little bit more. That. And then let's go back to the arc tracker, recreate, see how this is feeling. And then maybe here we'll even add a little more. See how that's a little bit more of a gradual. Now that knee's not popping quite as much. It's easing out of that pose a little bit more. All right, and then we have, so as we continue along here, you can see here the big pop we get. The spacing kind of gets tighter and tighter and tighter, and then pop. And those will give you visual pop in the animation that we talked about before. So we need to go through and try to smooth that out a little bit. And I think what we can do is we can start bending this toe, this foot a little bit more. Go back to the channel attribute under heel roll. And start bringing it up a little more. So now I'm just kind of flipping, kind of get an idea of what it's doing. This is very, what I'm doing is akin to what a traditional animator do with paper, just kind of flipping between the pages to see how the motion's going and checking their poses. And that's really where the egregious problem is here, that big pop. So what we could do is we could take the toe roll, bring it back a little bit. That's still a little much for me. Let's take the heel roll. Maybe we can bring that back too. What I want to do is just try to create an ease out of that. And then here, what we're going to do is we'll take this foot and we'll have it favor that previous pose a little bit more. I'm just trying to look at this joint there as I'm flipping it. And this is where that keyboard shortcut comes in, is it allows me to go frame forward or frame previous and kind of flip that way, because I have something selected that doesn't have any keyframes down here, so I can't use the next key, previous key shortcut. I think the default is Control plus and minus, and I don't know, it's just too much of a spread for me, for my fingers. What I have it set to, just it makes it much easier and quicker to do. Again, it's all personal preference. All right, so let's go and just recreate that trail and see how it's looking. Looking a little bit better. We're getting a little pop back here. So what we may do is really ease up on the toe roll here, or the heel roll. But again, we got to watch that knee. There's a lot of back and forth. I'm kind of looking at the knee to make sure that pop isn't happening again. We'll go back to the arc tracker, recreate the trail. And you can see it's getting a little bit better. It's still some funkiness in this area that I want to get ironed out. I think what I need to do is really bend the toe maybe here. Try this. I might want to bend it back. A lot of this is just some back and forth that you're going to be going through, and then getting that big pop there. I think what we're going to do is take this controller, going to bring it down, make sure we're not crashing through the ground plane here. It looks like we are just a tad. Let's recreate our trail. And you can see as I'm playing it's starting to smooth out. See, it's getting a lot better there. It kind of eases out here, and then it pops up and comes back down. And so what I'd like to do here, you see how it kind of comes up here, and then pops. I'd like to try to even this out and make it smooth. So we're going to take this, we're going to bring it up, making sure we have clearance to the ground here. And then if we track that, you can see it's starting to smooth out a little bit up here. And then we'll take this guy, and we might bring this guy up a little bit too. Actually bring him back a tad as well. And you can see how you can, continue to go through this, refine your animation. I want to get that top one and bring it down a little bit so it's not quite, and flatten this out a little bit so it's a little bit more rounded off. You can continue to, refine your curves and make sure you're getting that smoothness in your animation, not only in your arc, the path of action, and also, the spacing. And it's really those are the two things that really give fluidity to your animation. It's always a good idea to, step back, hide some of these, things that are pretty distracting, and then just play it. And you can see how that foot's starting to smooth out a lot more now. Especially compared to the other foot. You can see there's that little wobble back there in the back. All right. And so that kind of is how you would go through and use, your spacing to refine your animation and continue to, get that level of polish on there, in a working scenario. And again, as I go through some of the other animation principles and we start building upon what we're learning, I'll continue to touch on spacing, and I'll be using the arc tracker to, track my animation and the spacing and the curves and the arc and stuff. So it should hopefully become clear to you, if it isn't already, how important that is, and how to incorporate it into your workflow. And that about wraps her up. Let's move it on to the next principle.